So yes, it is true that the person doing the selling is going to play a huge influential part in getting more revenue into any business. However, they need a vehicle to use. They need a a sales machine that they can have at their disposal, something that takes the customer on a journey, a solid process for that salesperson to use so that they know and fully confident that they can use this process and the customer will ultimately get what they want to achieve. So without this process, the salesperson starts to decline and can go either decline or go and do their own process, which ultimately then means that you can't control the process. And if you can't control the process, you can't control the customer's journey or your level of sales. So welcome everybody to the Sales Drive podcast, where we discuss a hybrid of trust-based sales, marketing, psychology of the customer and the salesperson, combined with real talk of what it really takes in sales so that you can become more influential and make a bigger impact. We're on a mission to make great sales training more accessible and build sales titans from the inside out by creating physically, emotionally, behaviorally, and intellectually sound leaders. I hope you enjoy the show. So let's talk about it then. The building the ultimate sales machine. What does that mean? Well, as I mentioned in the intro, that yes, you got to develop your sales skills, and salespeople that want to be high influencers and have more authority, become great at sales, they need to be on a learning journey where they're always not just learning new material and new content, but also getting out there and testing it. So you can learn all the theory and learn all the stuff from the Sales Drive podcast. You can learn from the guests that we have on here, but you've got to be thinking, how can you actually go and implement this? So you need to be implemented in volume. So volume negates the look. And then that comes from Alex Hormozy. If you ever follow Alex's his content on social media, and what he means by that is, look, if you're not out there trying it, if you're not doing it, then you'll never learn in the moment and in the process. But before you do all that, you also need to take a step back and go, well, it's not just about adding more value, because you don't want to go in there without having understanding a process that can actually deliver the result for the client. So let's strip it all down. Okay, I like what Alex is saying. However, you do need a solid process to be able to go out there and do the volume, because if you don't have a process, then you're just fucking winging it. And anybody who goes in unprepared is not going to get the result that they need, because if there's no preparation to it and there's no process, then how do you ever develop it? How do you ever develop it? Think about somebody who writes a storybook, whether it's a kid's storybook or if it's an absolute novel. Yeah. That story has multiple amendments. And if you didn't actually write it down multiple times, so you write down the first chapter and the second chapter, then you revise it and you revise it and you revise it until you come up with something which is the end product. Now, if you just did one draft of it and sent it straight off to print, it'd be pretty shit. Why? Because that ultimately what you're saying is that was the end result, but you haven't even checked it over and seen how things are. There could be better ways of doing it. So it's a bit like if you haven't prepared, or you don't have a process for how you take your customer from A to Z, or Z if you're listening in different countries, how you take them from A to Z, then you're just winging it. And the last thing you want to do is that you can be a fantastic salesperson and sell ice to Eskimos, but that's not the point, is it? If you sell somebody just based on your sales skills, not on the actual process and understanding the client journey and what they want to do, then you're just being a dodgy salesperson. And we always want to move away from that. And this is one of my biggest frustrations I talk about on the Sales Drive podcast. And one of the reasons why I pivoted to do this is because it frustrates me, the quality of sales training that people are getting at the moment. It really frustrates me. Now, there's some fantastic sales trainers out there, but they're not always accessible. And I find it really hard to also find the people that are giving it out for free on a podcast like this. The ones that are the ones that get a lot of attention, like you just know who they are. These are the people that are do or die, and you must sell them this. And it's not trust-based selling. It's not relationship-based selling. It's about the salesperson getting the close and earning their commission. It's not about that. We need to think about more customer-focused in the Sales Drive podcast, and that's what we do, right? So how do we begin with all this? We've got to have a solid process, and I'm going to strip it all back. So in the Sales Drive podcast, we don't just talk about how you're going to get more sales as a character. We talk about how you need to structure as a manager, as a sales manager or a sales expert, sales executive, or even as a business owner or entrepreneur. How do you structure your sales process to make sure that the customer is getting what they want, so there's no buyer's remorse, no matter how much of a great salesperson they are getting logically the result that they want. Nothing is being overpromised and underdelivered. Everything is as that customer needs. If we can get that solid process in place, then ultimately we just think, okay, the salesperson now, this adds so much value to someone's life because of the process that we've built, not just the sales process, but the whole customer journey process. Yeah, from the time that they land on your website or they receive a cold call from you or whatever it may be, a LinkedIn message, a WhatsApp message, whatever it may be, they are going from that customer journey from that point A to point Z, that point Z being that they are happy with the product and they are ready to refer you. Yeah. And that's where a lot of sales comes from as well. It's not about this close point. Close point is not point Z. The customer journey and their lifetime satisfaction. There is no point Z if you think about it, because when you get to point Z, they should be referring you or giving you more work because you've done such a fantastic job of changing their lives or whatever product or service you might be selling them. So what we need to really do before we go into anything else in Sales Drive, and the reason why I've done this as the pivoting episode, is because so many people miss this sales process out and just go for, I'm going to go and learn a lot of sales strategies of what to say and objection handling and all this stuff, which is really important. But we've got to have their customer in mind first. You see, a lot of sales trainers make it about what's in it for the salesperson rather than what is in it for the customer. Yeah, what is in it for the customer? And the words I like to use is clients, because a lot of the people that I work with in any of my businesses, or a lot of my businesses don't even know that I run those businesses, by the way, because they'll never have face-to-face conversation with me. And you might be going, Lewis, well, don't you want to know and meet your customers? Well, yes, of course I do. But as soon as I step in, then what starts to happen then is I become a part of that relationship. I want my team members, I want my executives, my employees, the A players to have those relationships, because then that makes it personal to the people. What I need to do, though, is make sure that the salespeople, the sales executives and operational executives have the skills and the great process that they can follow to make sure that they're building relationships for everlasting clients. Make sense? So this is all part of the machine, the machine. And it's not just the sales element of it. That's where people go wrong. You got to think of the whole customer journey around it. So where do we start then? Okay, I'm going to give you steps today that you can walk away with, and you can take the specific steps that you need to do to place into your management team or your, if you're an individual, into what you do. Yeah, because if you start doing it and winning, and you go, well, how's this person making all this commission? Why is this person winning? Yeah, you're the A player of the executive team. Well, guess what? If you're making it work, then people will start using you as the guinea pig to go, hey, maybe we should start paying attention to Lewis. Yeah, maybe we should start paying attention to Sarah, to Michelle, to Bob. Let's see why is his numbers twice, 3 times the amount of everybody else's. Okay, here's how you can start doing it. Ready? So this is Sales Drive. I presume you will be driving your car whilst listening to this. So just make a mental note and also go back and check over this later on if you need to. So step one, understanding your customer. And what I mean by that is you got to understand everything has got to start with like this plan, right? You don't want to just go out there and just create a product that is just meant for everybody, yeah? Because all you'll do is that there'll already be that product out there already or service out there already. You're basically creating something where you're going to be competing with a lot of other people, and it's a race to the bottom. Yeah, it's a race to the bottom because all it becomes is that it's about, well, if you're offering the same product or the same service and there's nothing special about you, then guess what? Then why not go for the cheaper option? So understanding the customer is that you'll start to recognize that, well, okay, then even if we're doing the same product or the same service as somebody else, what pains are they having by working with somebody else? Yeah. What sort of problems are they getting in this industry? For example, if you look at the way AI is working lately, then you come up with the first AI, here's ChatGPT, and you type some stuff in there, and then you start to realize after you've done so many different uses of ChatGPT that you're starting to look like a bit of a dickhead because it doesn't even sound like you. Yeah, people can see now that it's AI that's written that rather than what you're doing. So new software has came out that utilizes multiple AIs to solve the problem of making it seem more human. Yeah, in fact, new ChatGPT versions are making these amendments already. So there's always a better way of doing it. Within 1 year, you've gone from ChatGPT 3.5 to ChatGPT 4 and ChatGPT 5. There's always improvements, okay? But they're doing it within their company because they're seeing the gap. So in business and in sales with a lot of things, you think about businesses, and most businesses haven't changed for over 10, 15, 20 years, right? So how much opportunity have you got to do something better? If AI can do it in 1 year and see improvements, what about somebody who hasn't got their eye on the ball with improvements? Well, you guys just need to figure out how you can start to improve it. Yeah. So understanding your customer is, well, what sort of problems and challenges is this customer having? Even though we've got product XYZ or service XYZ, then what else could we do differently to give them a spectacular, not just sales process and delivery process, but whole customer journey process put into one? Yeah. What are the things on the back of it as well are they having challenges with that we could start to solve? Makes sense? So first steps is understand that customer, understand their needs. Secondly, is understanding their journey. Yeah. It's not just about getting that product. The more you understand and put yourself into the feet of that, into the actual shoes of those people. Yeah. So the businesses that I own and the ones that I used to coach as well is that we'd start to figure out, well, what's it like to be that person? What's their journey? Where have they come from? Where are they going? What are their biggest goals? What are they actually really trying to achieve? What are their pain points around it? What are their fear points around it? And ultimately, the fear points can either be the fear of missing out. For me, it is the fear of missing out. If someone says to me, look, Lewis, do you need this or not? Then I'll go, well, not really. I never really thought about it. But then I think about what sort of goals would I like to achieve? And then I'll go, okay, well, why would I want to wait 5 years for those goals when I can get it in 1 year? Okay. Now, if I was to do it in 1 year, what would I do with the rest of the 4 years? Yeah, of course, accelerate even faster, right? So, for example, what I've just given you there is that its speed can be one of someone's goals, someone's speed to actually achieving their goal. And if they didn't do it now, then what are they missing out on? Okay, so that's just an example of it and understanding the journey that someone could be in. But you've got to understand their personality and their needs and their wants. So their whole journey, their life journey, if we think about it, this is where we get a little bit surreal, really, is that what is their life journey about? What do they want to actually say? I'm going to go there. When they're on their deathbed, how do they know that they made some of the best decisions of their life? Yeah. And if they pinpoint those points back, is it going to come down to a point where they go, oh, actually, I thought about doing that thing in my business for the last 5 years and I never did it? Or, if only I'd have done that sooner. That's something I hear a lot of, by the way, when working with people, is only if I'd have done this sooner or done that sooner. Well, where would you have been if you had? Well, you can't do anything about the past, but you can do stuff about the future. So what would you change now that you've learned from those lessons that's going to make a big impact in your future? You see what I mean? I'm talking about the journey of that person and why you really need to understand it. By the way, we'll do other podcasts on this. So if this is something that resonates with you, then make sure that you subscribe to it. And also leave me a comment, DM me on LinkedIn, whatever it may be. Let me know what is resonating with you the most so we can talk more about this sort of stuff in the future. Let's move on anyway. Step 3. Now you understand them. How do you help them on their journey? Not just with the outcome, their goals and their fears that they're trying to avoid, but they also need help with the sale, right? And this is a big thing that people really need to understand, is that the sales process isn't there about you trying to fucking close them. Stop it. If you are following people that talk about this on social media, unfollow them. Unfollow them. Sales is not about you, right? Sales is about them. In your sales process, this is all about how do you perceive the word sales, right? I'm going to share with you how I perceive the word sales. When I do anything in sales, and regardless of who I'm working with, if I'm selling a product to one of my businesses or selling a service in any of my businesses, the way I think about it is this person needs help. This person needs coaching to make a decision, because the only reason they're speaking to me now is there's been a trigger moment. Yeah. A trigger moment is that moment in time that people go, fuck, I really need to do something about this. I've been thinking about it for a long time. This would be the solution to the thing that I'm thinking of. And I just keep putting it off. And then it happens again. And then it happens again. And then it happens again. And the more frequent that they get reminded of it, the more likely they are going to get in touch with you. But they need to know, this is where marketing comes into Sales Drive podcast. They need to know when it comes up to their front of mind again, who they speak to straight away. So marketing and consistency, again, we'll do other episodes on this. So make sure you subscribe to this podcast so you can listen to those episodes. So you want to make sure that when that trigger moment does appear, we'll do a podcast on trigger moments as well, you are at front of mind and they want to speak to you. Okay? They want to speak to you. So the sale isn't just about this word sale that people get scared of because they've met some dodgy salesperson in the past. The sale is about that experience, that journey they're going on, where they need their hand their hand holding to make a decision. And if that decision is that it's not the right thing for them, then fine. Okay. Obviously, your process and your sales machine, your business machine, not just sales machine, your whole business, yeah, which is ultimately there to solve people's problem. Your whole business is going to be the right thing for them, and you truly believe it. Okay. So you've got to do that in a way that you're helping them make an informed decision. And when you start to get things come up like objections and stuff, just understand that you haven't covered everything for them to actually see the value in what you do. And it's not because of a sale thing. It's just that they're not seeing that your thing is the solution that they want to part the financials with. So you haven't added enough value to how they perceive it for them to actually depart with their currency, which could either be time or money. Yeah, people think it's all about money. It's not. It's about time as well. They need to invest time in you. Where did that money come from? Well, their investment in time. Yeah, if someone's paying for a £15,000 product, that £15,000 has come from their time that they've invested in something. Yeah, so you're paying for time. Yeah, a little bit deep, I told you here, but this is how you need to be thinking about stuff, because it's not serving you currently with your current level of thinking. Okay, so that level, that journey, that sales part of their journey, you need to think about you're not selling to them. You're helping that person. You're coaching that person to a decision, whether it's your product, someone else's product, or maybe that product isn't right for them at all, depending on their goal. And that's where you really got to understand what is the outcome that they're actually looking for. And if it's the right fit at the end of the meeting that you have, then you'll decide, okay, this is a win-win or a no deal. It's that simple, right? But obviously, you need to make sure that the only blocker will be you getting that message across to them. Okay, in a trustworthy, honest way that builds a relationship. And remember, it's not just about one sale, it's about the lifetime sale. And that's where a lot of sales go wrong. Okay, what next then? Now you've got this process in place and you've thought about the journey. You've got to think about, how do you systemize it? How do you systemize it? Like I said earlier on, I don't do the sales in a lot of my other businesses now because I've got people to do the sales. Now, the reason I've got other people to do it is I've created a system and found the right person that's better than me to actually run that part of the process. For example, the sales process starts from marketing. Yeah. So branding. Yeah. What image is it giving across, and what are people's first impressions when they see your brand? Because branding is really important because it connects. Here's some of the science part of it. I don't want to go in too deep into what I'm about to say here, so I'll really just keep it at the level. Otherwise, we'll go into another podcast. But neural association. And what I mean by that is, if I say Amazon, what do you think? Well, online shopping. Okay. So rather than me saying, well, I'm an online shop that sells this, this, and this, I can just go, well, my vision is to become the Amazon of dog food. What does that mean to you? Well, you've associated Amazon either with the forest or with the product or with the business, and you've gone dog food. So what I'm saying there is that you're going to become a multi-variety online shop where you can get fast service, blah, blah, blah. I've saved all that just by neural association of saying the word Amazon. Do you get what I mean? Again, don't worry about it for now. We'll talk about this in the psychology in the future podcasts. So ultimately, this can get you a lot more sales and make a bigger impact in the world as well. So how do you systemize it? You need to be thinking about this. How do you systemize that process now so that you can get the right person? For instance, branding, marketing, sales. Sales can be outbound. It could be inbound. It could be management of sales. It could be that you have someone who is a lot more effective at having meetings or communication. You see what I mean? You want to find the right people for the right seats. And that's where the A Players podcast is key. Previously, when it was called the A Players podcast, that would have been key because you want to put the aces in the right places. So that's where that comes from. So if you don't, without systemizing it, Jim Collins, Good to Great, go read the book, Jim Collins, Good to Great. He'll say that, your business is a bus and you've got seats on that bus and you want to have the right people in the right seats. Okay. So having the right system and then having the right people that run it is going to be key for you creating that, building that ultimate sales machine. What do we do next? Well, at some point, and it doesn't have to be at this point, it can be earlier. And I would recommend it earlier, especially if you're the one who's it's a bit like a forest in front of you. You need to get the chainsaw or the axe and start chopping away at the forest and create the path. And then you need to lay a nice path down so that your team members that you're managing can navigate that path fast. Yes. So sometimes you need to get in there and create that path. But along the way, you want to be testing what works and what doesn't. So now you have the system and it's all outlined. Think about, how do you start to measure each element of that? So you can measure the amount of leads that come in. Where are the leads coming from? Is it coming from email marketing? Is it coming from your SEO? Is it coming from XYZ marketing? So what next? Well, how many calls did we receive? How many calls did we outbound? Of those calls, how many was effective? Did it lead to anything? There's so much stuff you can measure. Yeah. And remember this, I'm talking as an entrepreneur investor now. Business is the language. Numbers are the language of business. Numbers are the language of business. Everything in your business can be measured quantitatively. Easy for me to say, quantitatively, which means you can put a number against it. Then there is a qualitative aspect to it as well, but you can still measure that quantitative by what they say. Yeah. So as a PhD researcher, you pick one or the other, or a mixed method when you're actually doing your actual research. So everything can fall into those two categories, and they're both equally important. However, you need to be able to measure, test and measure, see what is working, what is not working, and that will also define how you take your product or service to market. For example, you don't want to carry on doing something if it's not reaping results. However, you got to ensure that, is it a short-term strategy, medium-term strategy, or long-term strategy? And then also determine how much consistency and time that thing actually needs. Sales, you can kind of do it all the time. Yeah, we're not kind of. You can do it whenever you want, and it's short term, far more short term than something that would be, hey, let's put a marketing campaign in that's going to have billboards around the world, etc., like that. You're talking longer term results, but more leverage. Yeah, so you have to weigh it up. But ultimately, everything will come back down to some sort of human interaction or communication. Yeah, whether it had been done through an AI bot or through a website nowadays. But if you're talking high value ticket, then guess what? I'm not going to part with something that's done through that. I want something where I have that human connection as well. Okay. So how do you test it? You need to be measuring this all the time to make sure it's right. And then when it is right, then you can automate it. Yeah. For example, Tesla, you buy a Tesla for a website nowadays as well. That's a high ticket item, but it's been automated through testing. Yeah, you know that nothing can particularly go wrong there. And as soon as someone has had their hand held, then they're educated on how to do it. Okay, because it's a system. All right. So what next then? How do you leverage it? Ultimately, if you want that ultimate sales machine, you got to be thinking, how do I get leverage in this? So if you've got a system in place that you can place an A player into it, that they can have it as a vehicle for their winning, and you can have it as a vehicle for when they win, you win, it's a win-win system. So that's leverageable now that you go, okay, well, if it works in that market, maybe I could just find a different market and start to think about how can I create and leverage the system to work in a different market as well. But if it comes back down to you having to spend time there, then you've only got a certain amount of hours. You can only do 24 hours a day, maximum. Yeah, maximum. You can't cheat more than 24 hours. So the only way you do get more than 24 hours is through leverage. And it all begins with starting by building this ultimate sales machine. So what resonates with you today then? What has stood out with you on this sales drive? What are you going to go into today with and share with your team members or colleagues? Or maybe you just go, right, rather than trying to repeat it all back, just go, hey, go and listen to Lewis Haydon, Dr. Lewis Haydon on the podcast. He was talking about this stuff. Let me know what you resonate with. So leave some comments in the Spotify box and let me know what resonates with you the most. And remember to copy this link for this podcast and slide it into someone else's DMs as well if you feel that they need more access to sales on the go. Yeah. This has been Sales Drive Podcast and me, Dr. Lewis Haydon. Hope you enjoyed the show. Be great.